No, she's not. Let's address the elephant in the room first. Jax is trans, specifically trans femme. What people love to say about this is that Jax is somehow bad trans representation. I don't know about you, but to me characters are characters first and not representations of the minority that they are a part of. Second of all, Jax isn't even bad representation. In fact, I'd say that she's one of the best representations of the trans experience ever, specifically of repressed gender identity and the consequences of building your mental walls so high and thick that not even you yourself can break through them. I'm not here to defend Jax's actions because the things she does throughout the series, like her abuse of Gangle and how horribly she treats everyone in the circus, are completely disgusting and awful. I'm not denying this at all, but characters aren't supposed to be black and white acceptable people that you can put in nice boxes and like, oh, this guy's good, this guy's bad. No, Jax's actions depict exactly what the reality of pushing everyone away from you and isolating yourself looks like. Mental illness isn't supposed to be leg-hitting, cold, quirky shyness. In reality, it is horrible, uncomfortable, and serious that if not treated, results in hurting people. This perfectly mirrors her environment as well. The cast is literally stuck in a digital circus with no escape. Jax's reaction, although bad, is a natural reaction to her environment, which a lot of people like to ignore. Jax being a bad person isn't bad representation. Representation isn't for cishet people to see queer people better, it's so queer people can feel seen. Which brings me to the second popular criticism. Jax being trans is forced. This is actually just a completely ridiculous and honestly transphobic feeling argument, because let's not pretend that this wasn't obvious for episodes now. Quite literally, in the first episode, Jax says, "Ladies first," and then proceeds to go first. She constantly overcompensates with toxic masculinity, trying to hide and repress her trans identity, not only from others, but from herself. She primarily antagonizes the female and queer parts of the cast, which could be seen as misogynistic, but she's more trying to put feminine and queer people down to seem overly masculine and hide her own femininity. But hey, here are a couple of actual pieces of foreshadowing throughout the show. Jax's room being pink, blue and white, which are of course colors of the trans light, like come on guys. Jax freaking out and breaking down completely when forced to wear a maid outfit, showcasing her overcompensation and coping mechanisms. Jax compares herself to an egg being cracked open, which is slang in the trans community for realizing or accepting one's trans identity. Kane, the only person that knows fully what is going on inside of everyone's heads, forces Jax into wearing a dress during the song in There's more, but you get the point. Because of all these reasons, Jax being trans was already a theory before they finally ever aired. So no, Jax being trans isn't forced. Jax is the center and heart of the story. You can obviously see that gooseworx's favorite is Jax, and that Pomni and the others are pretty much sidelined for her. This isn't bad necessarily though. Jax's character was easily the most complex and the one that needed the most screen time to explore. A more valid criticism that I do agree with would be that the other characters just weren't as well written as Jax, so there wasn't much to explore anyway, even if they did get more screen time. But this isn't a flaw of Jax, this is a flaw of the show. This gets us to Jax's backstory. Jax, prior to her arrival in the circus, was victim to an abusive mother and an absent father. Once she revealed something to her mother, presumably her trans identity, she was met with rejection and a hug at the same time, completely confusing Jax, forcing to push her away and causing her to fall, making her unresponsive. Jax, in fear and guilt, runs away as far as possible from the house, forced to live with the intense guilt and the fear of the unknown, not knowing whether she killed her mother or not. Which eventually leads her to the digital circus, signifying not only that she had huge unresolved problems before falling into the circus, but that she was thrown into it at the complete worst period of her entire life. This makes me say that even though Jax's actions are awful and she is a bad person, she is also a product of her environment, and that environment eventually leads to her abstraction. Some people were complaining about Jax's abstraction being the simple, quiet cut, but in my opinion, this is exactly what makes it work so well. Abstraction is accepted in the fandom to be a metaphor for suicide, and suicide of someone you know is never a big action scene or whatever people thought it should be. There's no music playing, there's no sound effects. You wake up one day like it's a normal day, and then you get the news, or the last text, or last phone call, and then it's over. The cast isn't screaming or breaking stuff or exploding either. They are in complete and utter shock. Sad, yes, but not quite sad in the traditional sense. Jax wasn't at all a good friend or a member of the team like the rest of the cast, which is precisely why, for example, Gandul doesn't know what to feel and can't bring herself to cry for Jax, and she shouldn't. Jax was Gandul's abuser, and no one deserves forgiveness just because they died. The truth is that not only is Jax not a bad character, she's a great one, and more boldly, one of, if not the best part of the amazing digital circus. This show has its issues, but Jax is not one of them. I find it completely disgusting though how a huge chunk of the fandom is projecting their own hatred of Jax onto gooseworx, calling her an abuse apologist, misogynist, etc, etc. I've even seen people call her a racist or, insinuate that she's a Nazi. It's crazy. I cannot for the life of me believe that this has to be said, but writing evil characters does not make you evil. If that was the case, we should be cancelling Breaking Bad or Attack on Titan and basically 90% of fiction itself. But I suppose in 2026 it's woke. Woker. Yet woker. Until you end up a fascist restricting art.